All right, in this training, we're going to talk about how to make your pages mobile friendly. I've talked about this in a previous video, why it's so important to have a page that loads quickly. And it's also important to have a page that's designed for mobile as well. Now, understand, you don't have to create an entirely new page, or you don't have to create an entirely new element inside of that. In some of the old page builders, you had to actually have sort of a parallel funnel and you had to edit both of them. You don't need to do that. I've already discussed, changing some of the text and I undid a lot of it in a previous video, but because we're going to go over some stuff here. But just to cover it again, you want it to look good on mobile, right? This doesn't look good on mobile, right? It doesn't. So what would I do? Without having to create an entirely new element, I just take the same font or the same text, excuse me, and just lower the mobile font size right there. Okay. Same thing. I've already done this before in a previous training, but I'm doing it again just so you can see it. Now, the only thing that I might do when it comes to funnels with mobile is make sure the button is above the fold. Now on this, it is. Okay. But let's say, for example, that on, if you looked at this on a cell phone, for whatever reason, that button fell below the first scroll. Okay. What you'd want to do is put it up here. And I know that sounds crazy, but just trust me on that. So here's what I'd do. I would clone it, right? And then one of them, or on the first one, I'm just going to go down and I'm going to select, actually, I think it's in advanced. Yeah. I'm going to deselect the little cell phone icon so that only the visibility is set to blue for the desktop. That means it's the desktop only on that one. And then this one right here, I'm going to select the desktop version. See how it disappeared? I'll click on it again. Now it's back since only the cell phone is visible. Why would I do this? Because now what I can do, now it's available, it's visible on mobile. I can clone it, right? And I would drag it, click and drag right underneath the headline. Now, I wouldn't do that on this specific page, but I'm saying if for whatever reason you had some stuff up here that was in your video and everything was pushing the button, or there was the call to action button was below that first scroll, that's the only time that I would add that functionality there and add another button to it. Okay. Now, some other things that you can do to make things look better on mobile. Let's just put it in mobile. Is think about the the flow, or I guess the layout of things. So when you do 2-column rows, when you do things that are next to each other, it's going to put whatever's to the left on top. Okay. So if you have, I'll do an example here. So I'll do a 2-column row, right? And let's say, for example, I want to put, I'm going to drag that video that's here. I'm going to put it in one of those columns. And now I'm going to drag this over here. And all I'm doing is just clicking on the little crosshairs right there and just dragging. Okay. So I can delete that row. I don't need that anymore, which you could do. I couldn't do this. But obviously now it doesn't quite look good. What's kind of cool is now I can take this and I could, click and drag. So this is great for desktop, but notice what it's going to do on mobile, right? It disappeared. Well, that's because I got rid of that. So let me go back to this, put the visibility back on there. Okay, there it is. So obviously this doesn't look great on desktop, but it looks okay on mobile. So what I can do, I could just add some text here, right? Just add a paragraph. I'm going to move that up, make this bigger. Let's do custom font. Maybe add a little headline. Okay, I've got some font there, whatever, but here's what it's going to look like on mobile. Still looks good. So now this is the situation where it might push that button down below, and you might want to clone that and put it up here and make it visible only on mobile, right? You wouldn't want to clone this and throw it up here, right? You wouldn't want this because this looks awful. right? That's not a good look. It's there on mobile, but now all you got to do is you can go here, go to advanced, go to the visibility, and remove the desktop view so it's only visible on mobile. Now you've got the buttons, right? So notice though, the 2-column row, it puts whatever is to the left whatever to the left on top. Okay. So if you were to have some other things, let's move it over here. Let's move this over here. And let's say you had an image above this. Okay. Now it's really pushing that down. So I'm just giving you an idea of why that button is so important, and what you want to do, how you want to think in terms of left to right, and how things are going to stack on mobile. The other option is to create completely different sections, which you could do. I could clone this entire section, and then I could make this one visible only on mobile. See how it disappeared? And I could make this one visible only on desktop. So it's got, I've got two different looks here. So I could create, essentially you could design two completely different sections if you wanted to. I wouldn't do that. It just makes editing and keeping things up to date harder. But it's up to you. Whatever you feel is best for you. So let me go back. I'm going to put these. They're both visible. Okay, I'm not sure quite what happened to it. By the way, you saw how I just disappeared the tools over here. If you just click those little arrows, that'll bring it back. Okay. Okay. So what are some other things you can do with mobile? Well, what if you have a form, right? What if you've got your form in here? Let's see what it looks like with, there's my form. Select which form. Let's do our calendar booking form. So this is long. How's it going to look on mobile? I don't know. Let's see. Maybe what you want to do is you want to have this scroll down to that section, or maybe that button, right? So you could do, this is why it's important to kind of label your elements. So I would do this would be like booking form, right? If I labeled that and then I went to this button right up here, well, this is the one that's going to appear on mobile, right? So if I went to that one on mobile, and down the very bottom here, so I've got the button selected. Remember, I click on the button there, go down to button actions, and I can go link to pop-up. Right now it's set to the pop-up, but let's say you didn't have a pop-up. I could scroll to element. I scroll down a little bit more, and then I can look for that, where is it? There it is, booking form, right? So now when I save that, that button is going to click and link and scroll down to that on mobile, right? It wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have to worry about that on the desktop view because I don't have that here, right? I don't have that button. And this one would just open up, this one you could set to do the same thing, but it's right underneath it. So you wouldn't have to worry too much about it. So that's something to think about in terms of mobile. What are some other things that you want to think about? Obviously, text size is important. You don't want to go too small and you don't want to go too large. So if I were to just look at, this, we'll look at this text size on mobile, for example. That's, that right there itself is a little small. But I would say probably 18 is good in terms of your font size, okay? So in other words, you've got your font sizes here. It says mobile is 18. That's for the headline. I would do headlines like 22, on mobile. And then I would do, maybe 18. And then I would do 20 on desktop. Let me see what that looks like. See how that looks just a little bit better? I think bigger font is better, especially not, I mean, now you don't want to go crazy with it, right? You don't want to go where, let's do mobile. You don't want it to look like this, and you don't want it to look like that. You see that? See the difference there? That's not a good look. That's not professional. So I'd stick with the 20, right? And, 24. So there's a good, you could go down to 18. 18's okay. 18's probably fine. For a feature, kind of a feature set like that, I think that'd be fine. Your headlines, you want to try to, I think I mentioned this in one of the other trainings, your mobile font size, again, that's all I'm editing here. You want it on one, kind of stretched out all the way across, I think is a good look, or maybe a little bit less. And then your sub headline should be smaller, right? So, on a couple lines, something like that. It should always look like that. That one looks okay. And then you want continuity throughout your page. So this size was, what size was that? This was size 38 on mobile. So I'm going to go down. I'm going to make sure that this one is also 38. It's 42. So I'm going to go down to 38. Okay. And whatever size that was, it was smaller. So, oh, whoops, I was changing the desktop size. So it was 36. This is the mobile size. There we go. See how that looks better? Right, this is a different font. I'm not sure why it's using that font. There we go. But anyway, so that's some things you can do on mobile. I don't think there's anything else that you need to worry too much about. Anyway, hopefully that was useful to you. We'll see you in the next training.